Hey everybody, and welcome to Bible class. Romans chapter 12 is a great chapter of the Bible. I need you to meet me there as we take another step in our exploration of the God-shaped obedience of faith. With Romans 12, we have reached the major turning point in Paul's great letter to the Romans. We're going to hear him say in just a moment, I appeal to you, therefore. Brothers and sisters, it's that therefore that is a kind of great hinge where for the first 11 chapters of this letter, we've explored deep, rich doctrinal teaching. In fact, we heard Paul at the very end of Romans 11 talk about the depth of the riches and wisdom and knowledge of God, right? He took us on this great tour of rich doctrinal teaching, but now with the beginning of Romans chapter 12 all the way through the end of Romans, it is the so what? Where do we go from here? We're going to hear the call to live as sacrifices of God. That wasn't how Romans began. It is built on the foundation laid in Romans chapters 1 through 11. Remember, God is the potter. We are the clay. We are the one shaped according to his good will. So what will it look like with all of that teaching in mind for God to shape our everyday lives? That is Romans chapter 12, beginning in verse 1. I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. Listen to that. God's will is good. God's will is acceptable. God's will is perfect. God's way is the best way. And in order to walk in that way, we haven't always done that, right? We need renewal of our minds. We need a transformation of our thinking. He's the potter. We're the clay. He's seeking to shape a new way of thinking and living. Thinking about myself, thinking about the people around me, thinking about the opportunities that God gives to me. I don't deserve that, right? Which is why in verse 3 he brings up grace. By the grace given to me, I say to everyone among you, not to think more highly than he ought to think. Remember, we're just the clay. But to think with sober judgment, each according to the measure of faith that God has assigned. For as in one body we have many members, and the members do not all have the same function. Think of your fingers and your toes and all the various members of your body. Different function, but all a part of the same body. So we, though many, are one body in Christ. We've heard a lot about being in Christ in Paul's letter to the Romans, right? And here, whether you're a Jew or a Gentile, whether you're a male or a female, whether you're rich or poor, slave or free at this point in time, we all, if we're Christians, belong to one body. We're individually members one of another. So what will it look like as God shapes our thinking and shapes our living to be these living sacrifices? Listen to what he says in verse 6. Having gifts, remember, he's the potter, he's the giver of the gifts. Gifts that differ according to the grace given to us, let us use them. If prophecy, in proportion to our faith. If service, in our serving. The one who teaches, in his teaching. The one who exhorts, in his exhortation. The one who contributes, in generosity. The one who leads, with zeal. The one who does acts of mercy, with cheerfulness. Lots of different ways that we can serve and can contribute to the health of the body. Where have those gifts come from? Those gifts have a giver. Do we deserve those gifts? No, even the gifts are a sign of God's grace. And so let's use them. For whose glory? Not our own, for the glory of God. And at this point, Paul launches into a bullet point sort of rapid fire description of what it's going to look like as God renews our thinking, shapes our living, transforms us to live the lives of redeemed sons and daughters, to live like sacrifices. These are straightforward truths that just meet us right at the level of everyday real life. So I'm going to kick it over to your in-person class teacher, and for the rest of our class time, let's work through and discuss these bullet points together. They're right there on the back of your material. Let's take another step, a really practical step, in what it means to live the God-shaped obedience of faith. Thanks so much for being in class. Hope you have a great rest of your class and a great start to this new week.